Mr. Evans, and it's a great pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and it is a great pleasure to follow the Honourable Lady in having introduced this important debate. I would like to point out that this is a timely debate. This is a subject that is very much on the lips of both the Minister and of the Select Committee for Justice, in that both are undertaking inquiries at the moment. And the Ministry of Justice inquiry, which has called for evidence, is to look at the situation that exists with the 2014 Act, because although that Act has brought some benefits, it is clear that it did not go far enough, and it has created new problems, as the Honourable Lady has told us. And those problems come down to the behaviour of many bailiffs. It is the way that they go about their job that is a real problem for us. And I think the Ministry of Justice has promised that any changes that are being proposed for this will be put out to consultation, so we will all have the opportunity to engage with them. Now, the Select Committee for Justice has also decided to have an inquiry on this, and we discussed yesterday how this would feed in to the Ministry of Justice inquiry and how we could submit it as evidence. And that is to look at the 2014 legislation as well, but also to look at the way that the complaints are handled and how they are dealt with in the whole of the process. And I think there are two issues that come out of this above all, and those are the extent of regulation and the complaints system. Now, the two are, of course, associated, but I think they also need to be looked at separately. And as one honourable member, I think it was Honourable Lady, mentioned, that there is the Civil Enforcement Association, but that is not independent. And the system of regulation that we have at the moment is effectively a system of self-regulation, or in this case of pretty much no regulation. And I listened to all of the points that the Honourable Lady made as to why that system of regulation was not very effective. But there was one that sort of came in there but wasn't actually mentioned, and that is that there are no sanctions that are possible to be given against a firm of bailiffs that is conducting its business there. Of course.
I think it's a really important point that the Honourable Gentleman is making. And of course, the Civil Enforcement Association is just a trade body, and you have to pay a fee to be a member, but you don't have to be a member of it if you are a bailiff. The answer really is to have an independent bailiff regulator capable of banning and prosecuting bailiffs who break the law, and that's actually in the interests of bailiffs who are respecting the law and respecting customers, particularly vulnerable ones. Would the Honourable Gentleman agree with me on that point?
I do very much agree with the Honourable Lady in the description that she's just made of how the regulatory system should work. But I don't think that we should just concentrate on the regulatory system. I take on board completely everything that she said about what the regulatory system needs to include, but there is something else that we need to look at, and that is how complaints are dealt with the regulatory system, so that an effect can be had on bailiffs that are not doing the job properly or abusing their position in order to take that forward. Now, the complaints system, I think that we have at the moment has seen an enormous increase in people trying to make complaints, but fewer people have been able legitimately to make complaints to them. And I would like to propose to the Minister that before she moves on with this, as a result of the call for evidence, that she and I might like to have a conversation, because as the chairman of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Alternative Dispute Resolution, I think we have the solution to this problem. And it's a solution that the rail system is using now to try to deal with complaints there. and that is to have a system of alternative dispute resolution which includes things like mediation in place that can deliver quick advice. And one great thing about alternative dispute resolution is that it is cheaper than going to courts. We must have something that is much cheaper than the current process of going to courts. So if the Honourable Lady would like to have a conversation with me, I will propose a system of being able to do that from the experience that we have elsewhere in how this has been used, I think will satisfy all of the requirements that the Honourable Lady has already mentioned.